Well, hello, everyone, and welcome back to another live edition of the WGSN-DB Going Solo Veterans Corner. And I'm your host, retired Army First Sergeant Paul Holbert, and we are happy that you have joined us this evening. And for those of you that have watched the show before, you know that our show showcases veterans and what they're doing with their lives and sharing their experiences. And we also have veteran service providers and veteran representatives of veteran organizations. So it's always a good time here, good discussion, occasionally some tears, some emotion, laughter, but we're glad that you join us. I also want to thank the audience because thanks to your participation, or for those of you following the show, whether it's on Facebook or one of the other social media sites, the show is listed by FeedSpot Media here in Fairfax County, Virginia, among the top 25 podcasts to watch in Northern Virginia. So that's a credit to you guys participating and watching the show. So we really want to thank you for that. And we're happy to have all of you taking part on the shows when we broadcast them. Now, before we get started tonight with our guest, I want to take a moment, of course, to thank our sponsors, Quest Jewelers of Merrifield, Virginia. And there's their information there, questjewelers.com. You guys definitely got to give them a call. Take a look at their website. They've got some beautiful jewelry there, and they will custom make you pieces, well, whatever your heart's desire. And I can tell you that I have personally designed 3 or 4 pieces for my wife and had Juan and those staff there at Quest Jewelers custom make her some very beautiful jewelry. So give them a call or take a look at the website. I'm sure you'll find something very nice there. I also want to thank Nationwide IT Services. NIS is a service-disabled veteran-owned small business located here in Northern Virginia. And C.K. Park, a retired Army warrant officer, and his staff, located at various offices around the country, are there to help you with your business needs, whatever you might find that you have, whether it's IT security, training, program management, program development, whatever you need for your business, he's got a staff that can help you. So again, give them a call. There's his website, and we want to thank both of our sponsors for being with our show. Now, let's get into tonight's guest, and a little different tonight. Tonight's guest is Aimée O'Grady, and Aimée, who is originally from New Jersey, moved to Virginia in, was it 1999?
Yep.
But prior to that, she finished her undergraduate degree at Siena College, and then later finished her master's at George Mason. And I believe, Aimée, you said it was in writing?
Yes, it was. Correct.
Yeah, I mean, and that's kind of interesting because, when I was looking at master's programs myself, I didn't see anything, related to that. So when you told me that kind of caught me off guard. The interesting thing, though, for our audience is that while Aimée is not a veteran herself, she's an Army brat. Her dad served in the Army for a number of years. And I've got something I'm going to pick your brain about here. About your grandparents too, because I understand you're trying to research something about them, and we'll get into that here in just a little bit. But Aimée has spent about the last 19 years working for various nonprofits, a lot of different types of organizations, but currently is a master of all trades for Heroes Bridge right here in Northern Virginia. And we're going to talk about that as we go through. So Aimée, thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me, and congratulations on being listed as number 12 in Fairfax County. That's outstanding.
Yeah, I mean, it was a nice surprise when we got the email and they sent it to our studio, and CC at the studio forwarded it to me. So we're really happy about that. I think that tells us that there are people watching the show and the word's getting out. So, I appreciate that. I think it's kind of interesting because, I do this show as a retired Army veteran. I do it because I feel like I want to stay connected to the veteran community and the people that are working with them, and give something back, provide information to veterans and their families. And I'm sure that's why you've done so much of what you're doing. But I want to ask you first, with your college degrees, especially with your master's in writing, how did you get started in nonprofits? What drew you there so much?
It was really relocating from New Jersey to the DC area. There are so many nonprofits, and I was working in publishing at the time and accepted a job as a managing editor for peer-reviewed journals at the American Institute of Aeronautics and Astronautics. And it was just amazing. I think knowing that a few people sitting around a table with a common goal can start a nonprofit that can
Yeah.
change an industry. And I have always thought that was incredible.
Yeah, so it's so nice to see someone like you who devote so much of their time to those types of endeavors, because you run into a lot of people. And I myself, when I finished 2 years of college when I was younger, and I decided to go into the military, I was still looking for that career. What did I really want to do? But I was always, like so many people, looking for what could I do that I might enjoy, where I can make some decent money or good money. But I know going and jumping into the nonprofit arena is something that you really have to be devoted to do, because you're never quite sure where you're going to end up, what the conditions will be. So I imagine you kind of found that when you first got in.
You do, and with these smaller nonprofits, it's nice because you can impact that. You can help make it be successful. So it's really up to you, especially in these smaller ones. A larger, more established nonprofit is really pretty stable, but the smaller ones have a lot of flux,
Yeah.
and you are a contributing member of that. So you get what you give.
Yeah, yeah, and it's always, I've never been a big handyman, around the house, but through my life, I've always been able to do a number of projects, as I was a young adult and through home ownership. And you always have a feeling of accomplishment and ownership when you build something like that, or you help build something. And I can imagine it's the same feeling you get with the nonprofits.
Absolutely. Just sitting here with you is just a wonderful opportunity, and shows our growth, our reach, and this it's happening right now. So it's wonderful.
Well, I just want to change gears for a minute, though, because we're going to talk some more about the nonprofits and what you've been doing. But I have to ask you, I know, how long did your father serve in the Army?
He was only in for 2 years. It
Okay.
was enlist for two or get drafted for three. So he did the 2 years. He was stationed at Sandy Hook, New Jersey, in that
Oh,
area. And after his service, he took advantage of the GI Bill, and he went
yeah.
and got his own bachelor's and master's degree from New
Oh,
York
wow.
University, and went on and had a very successful career. Yep.
Yeah. Well, if you don't mind me asking, what did he do? What career did he go into?
Oh, he was in international marketing.
Oh, wow.
He traveled the world. Yeah, it was incredible.
Well, it's kind of amazing how just spending a couple years in the military can kind of somewhat pave the way, give him the GI Bill to go to school.
So he
And
was the son of immigrants,
yeah.
spoke English as a second language, and it
Mm.
changed the trajectory of his life.
Where did his family come from?
His parents were married in France, and about 6 months after their marriage, they hopped on a ship and came to Manhattan.
Okay.
My grandfather was a chef, and my grandmother was a housekeeper.
Okay. Well, I kind of found it interesting when I was looking at your information, and I have to ask you, because you mentioned in there that both of your grandfathers got their draft cards, right?
They did.
And yet I guess what, they were never drafted and were never called to serve, but you don't know what happened or what the story is behind it.
So both of them received their naturalization certificate or whatever that is, their
Yeah,
paperwork to become citizens. And less than 5 years after that, for both of them, they received a World War II draft card.
yeah.
I was able to find those, but I don't see any record of their service. So I'm so curious about why they didn't serve or weren't called to. I'm not sure what happened.
Okay, so you are sure that they weren't called to serve?
I feel like I would know. So they both passed away when I was young. One of them I was only 2. The other one I was 8. So I was still quite young. So I didn't know them very well, but I don't remember any military stories or any reference
Yeah.
to them serving. I feel like I would have heard something. And I never did. So I am very curious about where this lead goes.
Well, I tell you what I'll do. After the show, if you send me an email and give me just a quick reminder, there is an online submission. If you have information about them, um, you might be able to submit and see if the military has any record or a DD 214 on them. You
I
can
would
submit it
love
online.
that. Yeah.
And
I
I actually provided that information at the end of one of my shows a while back. So it's on my website. But if you remind me, just send me a brief email. I'll find that website for you and see if maybe by some chance you can find something that way. It might help you.
I will indeed. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm yeah. I made a note. I'm gonna do that.
Okay. Yeah, and I have to tell you too, my grandfather on my mother's side, he was a colonel in the Civil Air Patrol back in
Okay.
the 50s and the 60s. And of course, I still don't know a lot about the Civil Air Patrol, but that's where he served.
Oh, that's
And
interesting.
yeah, I had uncles that went on to serve in the military, some of his children. Um, and then my father, was on active duty when he was killed when I was young.
Oh
So,
wow.
we've got kind of a history of service in our family. So I can understand you wanting to see if you can find out exactly what happened. So we'll see if we can help you out with that
Well,
too.
that would be great.
Yeah. So uh, you got into all the nonprofits, right? And how many different ones did you work with before you landed in Heroes Bridge?
So I was working with larger professional societies, so a little bit different nonprofit experience. I moved out to from Northern Virginia. Now we live in Fauquier in Warrenton, and I started doing a freelance writing career, and I started doing that for many years. I would write for the local paper and local magazines,
Oh,
and the
okay.
opportunity came up for this position with Heroes Bridge, and I thought what a wonderful opportunity to get some stories. And I think that's where I come into the organization. I'm so interested in these firsthand accounts of history that when they're gone, they're gone. And I
Yeah.
want the words spoken from the people who lived them.
Yeah.
So that's where, while I love promoting Heroes Bridge, I love collecting the stories and sitting with our veterans and hearing them tell it. So that's where my interests are.
Yeah, I know what you mean because I've had several shows in the past where we've had guests on who one of the first ones, she came on because her father had served in World War II on a particular ship, and of course he was suffering from dementia, unfortunately. So we couldn't have him on the show. So his daughter came
Mm.
on to share his story, his experiences. And a little while later, I had another um, son of a veteran who served on that same ship.
Oh,
And they
wow.
came on and shared even more information about the ship, the stories. And of course, then I had another one that came on, and his father was deceased, but he was a veteran in World War II. And shared stories of his father. So you're right. I mean, when we look each year at how many of our, especially our older veterans, are dying each year, so much of that information and those stories and those experiences are lost. And I
Yes.
think I have to commend you for wanting to, take part in actually, recording that and experiencing it.
Yes, and Heroes Bridge serves veterans ages 65 and older. So our oldest veterans are World War II era. So
Yeah.
these are priceless pieces. And of course, we're losing them so quickly that
Yeah.
it's important to hear the stories.
Yeah. Before I started working from home full time, when I was working in DC, I mean, I always made it a point when I was on the sidewalks of DC, whenever I saw one of our veterans, especially the Vietnam and World War II veterans, the Korean War veterans, some of them would have, their hats on, some of them would be in wheelchairs. And I'm sure
Mm.
you know what I'm talking about. And it just brings to mind one of them who I saw on the corner. I was coming back across the street having lunch, and they're in a wheelchair with appeared to be his wife and his son and daughter. Was an old World War II veteran. And
Wow.
yeah, did we lose your picture?
Oh, no. No, I'm here.
Oh, there you go. Okay. You
Okay.
blacked out on us for a second. So
Oh,
I just
sorry.
wanted to make sure. So, I walked up to him and I just shook his hand and I said, it is so wonderful to see you out. And thank you for your service. And I said, especially your generation and all that you guys did. And I talked to him for a couple of minutes while his family stood there on the corner waiting to cross the street.
Oh.
And then, I went over to his son and I said, hey, I hope I didn't hold you up, but I said, it's always an honor to run into our World War II veterans. And he told me, he goes, let me tell you, he said, I can tell you just made my dad's day.
Oh, that's
So,
wonderful.
and I'm sure you kind of experience part of the same thing with the veterans you're working with.
We do. And a lot of our services that we bring to the veterans are everyday improvements in quality of life. It's very basic.
Yeah.
Some of them are very basic, whether it's helping them get to a doctor's appointment or driving when they can't drive anymore, or perhaps taking them a little further if they need to go. We do a lot of that. We also just pop in and make friendly visits and check in on our veterans and see how they're doing. So it's things you sort of don't realize can have such an impact on somebody.
Well, we're going to take a short break here, Amy, and then when we come back on the other side, I want to kind of jump into a little more detail about Heroes Bridge so you can share as much as you can with us about it. So for the audience out there, stand by and we'll be right back. All right, welcome back, everyone. And you've been watching the WGSN-DB Going Solo Veterans Corner. And our guest tonight is Aimée O'Grady. And of course, she is representative of the Heroes Bridge organization here in Northern Virginia. And Aimée, I want to ask you though first, how did you kind of make that move from what you were doing to Heroes Bridge?
It was an easy decision to make. The organization was young. It had a lot of opportunity, and I felt like I had something to lend to it to help move it along. So,
Yeah, I mean, did you feel any pull to it because of your father or anything, or was it just an interest in the veterans and being able to hear their stories and share?
so in the organization started in 2016 with our Battle Buddy program. At the
Okay.
same time, I was introduced to one of the veterans working as a nonprofit, as a freelance writer for a magazine, and I was asked to do a story about a veteran who was part of the Battle Buddy program. So
Oh,
when the organization started, serendipitously, I was writing an article about them. And after that, when the opportunity to work for Heroes Bridge came about, I remembered the article and meeting the veteran, and it just seemed to make perfect sense.
hmm. Yeah. I mean, I got to tell you, I'm kind of a sucker for any of the veterans related type activities, and of course, it stems from my background, but um, so I'm getting ready to retire permanently here at the end of the year. And I've already volunteered to work at the U.S. Army Museum there by Fort Belvoir. Um,
Wonderful.
but I'm going to have some other time. And, what you guys are doing sounds pretty interesting. So I may actually talk with you a little bit more about coming to see you guys and seeing what I could do there, because that's just the type of stuff I like to do as well.
So I will tell you, I interviewed one of our volunteers who is also a Navy veteran just this morning. And at
Oh,
the end of the article, his feedback was be careful when you volunteer with Heroes Bridge because you will fall in love with the veterans.
yeah, yeah.
And it's 100% true. The gentleman in 2016, his name was Peter. He has since passed away, and he was living in a affordable housing at the time. He was in a very sparsely furnished room. He had a chair that looked out over the living room picture window, and he would just sit there. And it was so isolating
Yeah.
where he was, and it made a tremendous impact on me. And today I have the opportunity to help veterans like him be less isolated.
Yeah. I think I've told the story on here before, so I'm not going to rehash the whole thing again. But I was first struck very hard on one of my visits out to the VA hospital in Washington, D.C. I had to go out there for an appointment one time, and just walking in there and seeing some of those older veterans, scattered in different places in wheelchairs. And, I got to tell you, it hit me hard. And I think that's when I first picked up the idea that, when I get closer to retirement, I'm going to spend some of my time trying to give some things back, because when I
Mm.
saw that, it really hit me. And it sounds like it struck you the same way.
It did, and it's interesting that you want to give back. This is something we see with all of our veterans, whether they are our volunteers or the people we're helping. They never stop serving. When their service ends, their retirement ends, they are still giving back in some way.
Yeah.
And it's something. We have a gentleman who we help today. Who was a volunteer driver for another organization right up until he could no longer drive himself.
Hmm.
Just continually serving the community. It's amazing. It's inspirational.
Well, I think you're right too, because what you just mentioned is a theme that I hear with most of my veteran guests, how they feel like even though they're no longer in the military, and I've had a few that are still on active duty on the show as well, but overwhelmingly, I can tell you, they all say the same thing. They all say, we're part of a community. We want to be able to, excuse me, we want to be able to give something back.
Yes. Yes. I met with another veteran earlier this week. He's only 37 years old, a disabled veteran, and he has a young family. He works full time, but even he is looking for opportunities to serve the veteran community. So it's in your blood. I think the veterans just can't help it.
Well, I think, and tell me if you've heard this before, because this comes from my own personal view. As a veteran, and especially retired, um, but you feel like even if you don't retire, you just spend, whatever time you spend in the military, you give so much of yourself because it's a career that's, let's face it, it's a career that's not meant for everyone. And you feel like you give so much of yourself. And I know myself personally, and a lot of the other veterans said the same thing, that when they finish, they feel very fortunate and very blessed to have not only had the experience, but to have served the country. And you feel very blessed for the position you're in, and what it's done for your life and how it helps your future, that you just feel a need that you want to share that, or you want to, pass that on to someone else.
We do see that, and we also see the other side. We see the veterans who came back different people,
Yeah.
who perhaps did not do as well and have struggled, and because of their experiences have fractured family relations and perhaps can't hold down jobs, and their
Yeah.
senior years don't look as bright as those who have successfully maneuvered all of those challenges. And it's the ones who need the assistance in those twilight years, those final moments, are the ones that we're here to help. We're here to make sure those final years are the very best that we can help them have.
Yeah. Yeah. And I have to tell you, I totally agree, because there are so many things that you experience that you're right, ruin relationships, ruin lives. And my wife saved my life. I can tell you, because I struggled hard with PTSD, and she finally gave me an ultimatum and said, "I can't help you. You have to get help. Don't don't be a bullhead. Don't try to be the macho man," because she said, I can't do this. You have to get help." And that was the push that not only, I think, saved me, but it saved our relationship.
That's
So
wonderful.
I can totally understand what you're talking about and how important that is to some of these people.
And today we find there are much greater services for servicemen and women who return
Yeah.
home to help them reassimilate back into civilian life.
Yeah.
And the veterans we help, 65 and older, they didn't have that. So they were navigating troubled waters without a life vest. And I think for some it was difficult. They are still treading water, so
Yeah.
we're the life vest. We toss it out to them.
Well, I was still pretty young. I just missed Vietnam by a couple of years. It wound down a couple of years before I graduated high school. But of course, I was well old enough to see what was going on, watch the news stories. And then as it wound down, it didn't, how can I say, I saw it, but it didn't strike the chord with me at the time. I saw the way our Vietnam veterans were treated.
Mm.
And, I saw it, I recognized it, but it just didn't hit the chord with me because I was so young.
Hmm.
And it wasn't until I got into the military a few years later that I realized, just how important that was. And, what the proper homecoming and help could have made for all those veterans. Yeah.
It's hard to imagine, especially today when we're so connected, where we know about things, and these veterans were sent to Vietnam doing what they were told to do. So to come
Hmm.
home and find out everybody's mad at you for doing your
Yeah.
job, it's hard to put yourself in their shoes. I certainly can't even begin to.
Yeah. So you mentioned the buddy program. Can you tell us just a little more about that?
Sure. So the Battle Buddy program is our signature program, and it is where we will pair a veteran with a younger veteran or a veteran centric individual for one on one companionship. And this
Hmm.
person can become a lifeline for a veteran in need. We are there to take phone calls, to have friendly visits, to go on excursions, to take to doctor's appointments, and anything like that. And in June, very excited, we expanded this nationally as a virtual
Oh,
battle buddy program.
wow.
Yes, we now have an 866 number. It's 866 old vets, and it is available. The
That's
veterans voted on that. The veterans
I,
voted on that.
I no, and I'm not. I just have to tell you that is very cute. I mean, very appropriate because my wife just refers to me as old man. So
Oh.
yeah, so but that's really good. It's really catchy.
They had several options, and that was the one that won.
Wow.
And so now our Battle Birdie program is available virtually nationwide, and
Ah,
we're doing what we do here. We're able to scale it elsewhere.
yeah. Yeah, so it is, and I imagine that if the folks visit your website, that you have all the information there. Can they sign up or contact you guys about signing up to help?
Yes, we do have a volunteer page on our website with opportunities. Our greatest need right now are drivers, which would be a local
Mm,
opportunity.
yeah,
And these are, just as it sounds, these are people who will transport veterans to wherever they need to go. Our
yeah,
volunteers go through a background check, so everybody is vetted. And of course, driving records are required to be a
yeah.
driver. And at this time, that is our greatest need.
Okay.
But we do welcome volunteers to be put on a list when we have the opportunity to call them.
So what other types of programs are you doing out there besides just your battle buddy?
Well, I will share the one that I manage next.
Okay.
I manage the Honor Guard program.
Okay.
And this is where I collect the stories. We have a traveling portrait exhibit of portraits that we've taken of our veterans
Yeah.
with their military portrait. And it's a
Ah,
traveling exhibit. We take it to high schools, senior facilities. It's been in retail shops. It's been in government centers. And it's I call it our passive promotion. It's
yeah.
just an opportunity to meet the veterans who you may run into in the grocery store. They
Yeah.
have had amazing careers. They've done incredible things. They've contributed to society in incredible ways, and they live right here. And so it's our opportunity to meet our veterans. And we've also found that through storytelling, there is a mental health component to that
Yeah.
that really helps lift the burden for some veterans to share what they went through with us. So there are many good, valuable components to capturing stories for veterans. Um, our next program that I'm happy to share with you is Paw Patrol. That, you may guess, has to do with dogs
Yeah.
and perhaps horses and other animals that have four legs and fur. And we will bring dogs to other facilities to see our senior veterans for just the companionship of a pet.
Oh,
And it is such a, I volunteer for that program with my dog Juno,
yeah.
who is just a bundle of puppy,
Yeah.
and also very fulfilling. I hear about all the veterans dogs that they've had. Again, it just stirs up these moments of nostalgia about family pets and different times. Also a wonderful program. And then the last program we have is called the Homefront program. And this one is to ensure that our veterans can stay in their homes for as long as they
Mm,
can. So we will install ramps if necessary,
wow.
grab bars for bathrooms, and other safety features to make sure that the homes stay safe. Many of our veterans are in homes that they've been in for a very long time and perhaps could use a little updating.
Yeah.
We have replaced rotten floors or floors that need
Mm.
replacing. We make sure that the water runs in the winter and the heat runs, and that they have these sorts of critical care needs that will keep them comfortable.
So can anybody donate to that program if they go to your website or?
Yes, yes, we do have a variety of campaigns that people can donate to on our
Okay.
donate page, or they can make a general donation. We have found that local businesses are unbelievably giving.
Yeah.
When we had a veteran whose kitchen cabinets fell off the wall. You can
Oh,
imagine what that looked like. Everything fell out all over the floor, and within hours we had people lined up to help fix that. We've
oh,
had
that's great.
refrigerators donated when
Yeah.
or discounted. We have people come and move them. I mean, it's incredible,
Yeah.
what the local community has turned out to give us when we need it.
Well, it sounds like, I got to tell you, I mean, it really sounds like you guys are doing a lot of great work. I mean, um, I have to tell you, you're to be commended. And for the audience out there, you see the website, heroesbridge.org. So, I encourage you to go on there and take a look, see what they're doing, see maybe if there's a way that you can help out, and maybe, give Aimée and the rest of the folks there a little bit of help. Well, Aimée, before we close though, and I got to tell you, I mean, I really appreciate you coming on and the work that you guys are doing. I'm going to look into this a little more myself and see if there's some things I can do once I get past my retirement point here near the end of the year. Because this is just the type of stuff I really like to do as well.
I will
Um,
tell you, we have a very robust volunteer program that will gladly take as little or as much time as you can give.
yeah.
So we're very flexible.
So before I ask you the last question, I have to ask you. I saw your T-shirt with the Heroes Bridge on it.
Yes,
Do
I'm
you have
glad.
those for sale on the website?
So we do have a storefront on the website that has a
Okay.
lot of shirts that are the daughter of, the son of, or a
Okay.
veteran yourself of many different eras, which
Okay.
you're encouraged to go and take a look at.
Okay.
This shirt is from our Vietnam Veterans 5K event,
Oh, okay.
which
All
is
right.
in the spring, in March, of course. And this had the Huey on it, if you can
Yeah.
see. It's
Yeah.
a
I
little
see that.
lower. Our shirt next year and our medal will have the Swift boat, the Vietnam Swift boat. So
Okay.
each year we change it. It's a wonderful event. Last year we ran through a vineyard. It was in the rain, but it was still wonderful. um, so it's a great opportunity to come out and support your Vietnam veteran.
Well, I have to ask you before we go, though, if there was one particular thought that you'd like to share with the audience, what would it be?
So I actually have two. Well, the first
Okay.
one is take the picture. Always take the picture. When you're with your veteran, when you're doing everyday things, take a selfie, take a picture. We have found that although they may say they don't want it, when you're there with the camera in front of them with your head next to theirs, everybody smiles. It's a
Yeah.
wonderful opportunity. And get the story. Encourage your veteran to talk, to share whatever they're comfortable sharing.
Yeah.
When they leave, they take the stories with them, and we encourage them to leave something behind with us.
Okay. Yeah. That's good. That's good advice. And like I told you, I try to do that whenever I see the veterans out when I'm out and about. So for those of you watching the show, again, there's the information outreach at heroesbridge.org, and there's the website. So we encourage you to go on there and take a look, and see what you can do. See if you can volunteer. Maybe you can just donate. Maybe you can purchase from the store, anything to help out. So, Aimée, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show tonight and to share what your wonderful organization is doing. And I look forward to talking to you some more in the future, because I'd love to get some more of those veterans you have there on our show as well.
Thank you so much, Paul. This was a wonderful opportunity, and it was a pleasure talking to you.
All right. Well, thank you very much. And for those of you watching the show, we normally will provide information at the end of the show, but tonight we are going to stick with the information about heroesbridge.org. So please take note of it. Go to the website, take a look at the programs, see what they're doing, the wonderful programs for our nation's veterans, because they've given so much. And it's our time where we can, even if it's just a little, to give a little something back. So for the audience out there, I want to thank you for taking the time to join us this evening. And we hope that our veterans out there, that you are getting an opportunity to enjoy your life. We want to thank you so much for your service, and for all of those out there, the families as well, supporting those veterans. For the audience, we invite you to look at our website, goingsolomedia.com, and there you will find my Veterans Corner page as well, with all of our information and past shows. So again, thank you for joining us tonight, and we hope to see you on our next show.